At the end of our last episode, we saw DMX the Great become the king of rap in Yonkers after beating Bill Blass in two different rap battles. After a few months of working with Jack McNasty, Jack invited DMX to move in with him in New Rochelle. Not only would X now be closer to the recording studio, the hope was that living with Jack would help keep DMX out of trouble. Furthermore, Jack let X stay there for free, at least until he started making money from his music. This gave DMX all the time he wanted to write new rhymes. He also, of course, made time to run the streets of New Rochelle at night. Combined with the fact that he was now a new guy in a new area, his rap battle over Bill Blass allowed him to start hooking up with a lot more girls. In spite of that, one day, Kassan told DMX that his girlfriend's roommate wanted to meet him. According to Kassan, he and his girlfriend had been listening to one of DMX's tapes. The roommate heard it and asked Kassan to introduce her to him. At the same time, Kassan told a girl named Tashera that DMX wanted to meet her. When DMX and Tashera actually met, they were surprised to find out that they already knew each other. Tashera was surprised to see that this DMX that she kept hearing about was a guy named Earl that she already knew. She mostly remembered him from Yonkers High School when he was a freshman shooting dice and never going to class. She also knew that he robbed people because, unknown to DMX, she had seen him rob an old lady one day for her purse. At the same time, Earl knew that Tashera lived on Linden Street. As they began to talk, they found that they had things in common. Tashera lived in a household that had been just as strict as Earl's. Neither she nor her 6 siblings were allowed to have friends over, and they couldn't play outside. Earl enjoyed spending time with Tashera that night, and he was interested in her. However, after that, he wouldn't talk to her for weeks. And not because he didn't want to, but because every time he tried to call her, she was always either busy or he was told that she wasn't at home. This also happened no matter what time of day he called her. After a while, he got to see her one time, but apparently he turned her off by telling her that he was going to steal something while they were on their date. He wound up stealing a Gap hoodie for her, but after that date, the excuses started again. A few more weeks passed by, then he finally got to see her again. That time, she told him that her Aunt Flo was in town. So that was that. The next day, Earl stole a car and wanted to surprise Tashera with it. He called her before he came by, and she told him it was okay for him to roll through. However, when he went to her house, nobody would answer the door. 20 minutes later, he was still ringing the doorbell, and by then, he had added some heavy banging on the door to try to get somebody to let him in. Still no luck. Oh, Earl was hot behind this, and she was doing him greasy, so he came up with a way to pay her back. Around that time, Earl had met 2 other girls whose names sounded similar to Tashera's, Indira and Lavera. He decided to write a rhyme that would have a verse and told a story about the 3 of them, Tashera, Indira, and Lavera. After he wrote the rhyme, which he called Once Upon a Time, DMX was invited to perform at the club Brown Eyes. Rapping over Boogie Down Productions' I'm Still Number One beat, at one point, X spit a verse about Tashera that basically said that, while using her name in the rhyme, at first he thought she was just a fan, but then he started liking her. Then he said she was always fronting, that she had him confused about what she wanted, and that she was always ducking him. The crowd loved it. Immediately after his performance was done, Tashera, who X knew was there while he was performing, came over and wanted to talk to him. Needless to say, she wasn't happy. In fact, she was downright upset. They stepped outside the club to have their conversation. "Yo, was that song about me?" she asked him. Earl played dumb. "What you mean? What's on?" By this time, there was a small crowd watching them have their conversation. Tashera played along. "That song with all the girls, was that about me?" She was embarrassed now. Seeing that, Earl felt like he'd gotten her back for how she had treated him. but he kept his game going. I didn't say Tashera, I said Tamira. The crowd laughed and Earl ran away as Tashera started chasing him, and she threatened to F him up when she caught him. Once he got her to calm down, Earl told her that the only reason he did that song was because she kept fronting on him. He then invited her back to his place with the promise of making her some French toast. Earl would later reflect that that evening, April 29, 1989, was one of the best of his life. He and Tashera stayed up all night, talking and just hanging out. As they talked, Earl found out that Tashera had done her share of suffering too. When she was 14, her mother left the house to go to the store, then never came back home. The family looked everywhere, but they never found her. Without her, Tashera's father took a drastic turn for the worse with his behavior. He stopped earning money for the family. Since Tashera was the oldest, she was forced to become the mother of the family. She quit school, got a full-time job, and also began cooking and cleaning around the house. For months, she did everything. But then her father's behavior towards her forced Tashera to move out and find a new place to live on her own. When she told Earl these things, he felt closer to her than any other woman in his life. He felt that so strongly that he told her that he loved her. From that point, they became inseparable. Earl was very protective of Tashera as well as of their relationship because he had never cared about somebody this much. He felt that Tashera gave him the trust and respect that he always wanted. In his words, Tashera gave him dog love. By early 1990, DMX, as well as some other rappers in Jack McNasty's stable, began opening for headliners at a club called The Castle. Located in the Bronx, every week the club held Sneaker Thursdays and featured rappers such as Big Daddy Kane, Biz Markie, Nice and Smooth, and Special Ed. One night at the club, to get the crowd going, DMX challenged rappers Lord Finesse and Andre the Giant, who was later known as AG from Showbiz and AG. At the time, both rappers were in the audience watching X perform, but then D started directing his rhymes at the duo. Getting heated as X clowned them on stage, they both soon got on stage as well, got mics, and started battling DMX. It didn't matter that there were two of them, DMX blew them both away. Later in the year, X won the New Music Seminar Rap Contest. After that, he was chosen to appear in the Source's unsigned hype column. Around the same time, DMX got a pup pit bull that he named Boomer. He became X's best friend, and the two of them went everywhere and did everything together. X later reflected that he trained Boomer to be the most dangerous and feared dog on the block. We're going to take a time out from our story to ask you to like, subscribe, share, comment, hit that notification bell, and repeat when it comes to our videos. Now, back to our story. Around this time, DMX decided to make it official and sign paperwork that made Jack McNasty his manager. By that point, X trusted Jack, and he'd been living with him, and Jack was like a big brother to him. However, not long after X signed that paperwork, he found out that he'd made a mistake. Why? Because now that he was officially an artist, his arrangements with Jack changed. Gone were the days of recording in the studio whenever he wanted and having Jack cover the costs. Now those things were costing DMX money, and each event was documented and properly charged as expenses to him, the artist. It added up quick too, because he was in the studio every day. Even when DMX recorded with other producers, their time was billed to him too. Of course, none of this was explained to DMX until the bills began accumulating. At the same time, Jack was shopping DMX's demo tape to numerous labels. None of them wanted to be in the DMX business. They had different reasons, from he doesn't look marketable to his voice is too rough. One label even asked if DMX could start dancing when he rapped. Still another one asked if he could get a gimmick and start rocking polka dots like Kwame. Of course, DMX was having none of that. Meanwhile, DMX was in the middle of one of his dark periods due to his addiction. Whenever he started fiending, he'd literally do anything to get the money he needed in order to score. He went next level with one move he pulled to get money. One day, DMX, Jack McNasty, and a rapper named Top Quality were sitting in Jack's house watching TV. Top Quality had taken off his gold chain, left it on the table, and went to the bathroom. When he came back, his chain was gone. "Come on, D, stop playing," he said to DMX. "Give me my chain." "What? I don't have your chain. You probably dropped it somewhere," X suggested. "Yo, D, for real, I left it right here." Now DMX was getting upset. "I don't have your effing chain, TQ." TQ stopped smiling and a look of disbelief came over his face. "Come on, D," Jack chimed in. "I saw you take it. Let's keep this like family." X couldn't have cared less what they said. Yes, he had the chain, but there was no way he was giving it up. He needed it. Besides that, he knew neither TQ nor Jack would fight him for the chain. So he won by default. He added one more denial for good measure. "I'm telling y'all mofos, I ain't got nothing. It wasn't me." With that, he got up and he walked out of the house, taking the chain with him. DMX had other dirty and underhanded moves he made in order to get money to feed his need. For example, when he sold his mixtapes, he'd collect the $10 for the tape, but then not give the tape to the person he just sold it to. "Nah, homeboy, you ain't acting right. I think I'll hold on to this for a while," he'd tell a customer. He'd wind up selling the same tape numerous times using this same tactic. In another instance, X was at a house party when what he called an off-brand ninja walked into the party. The dude had on a black ski mask, and he was wearing a big gold chain that had a horseshoe pendant on it. DMX saw the dude and immediately decided that he wanted that chain. He asked his Uncle Collie if he knew who the dude was. Collie said no, but one of Collie's friends told X that the dude was so-and-so's boy, so he was cool. X didn't care. He'd already figured in his mind that he could get a lot of money for that chain. Next thing you know, the lights went out, DMX hit the guy in the chest and snatched the chain, then just turned around and looked in the opposite direction. The guy looked at X like he was crazy, but he didn't say anything to him. Since he reacted that way, DMX thought he was a bitch. When X asked him what the problem was, the guy didn't say anything and just walked away. DMX stayed at the party a little while longer, then he decided it was time to go. When he went outside, 5 dudes was waiting on him. "We heard you snatched our people's chain," one of them said to him. After that, it was on, as they all started to fight. X gave as good as he got, but ultimately the cops came and arrested him. While he was in jail, he battled anyone who thought that they had the talent to challenge him lyrically. It didn't take long for fellow inmates to see how good he was. More often than not, he used his rap that he titled Spellbound to put his opponents away, so inmates knew that rhyme. That's why one day, one of them told DMX that they had heard this song on the radio station WBLS. At first, X didn't believe him, but then a few other inmates told him the same thing. Then X saw the video to the song. It wasn't him. It was actually K-Solo. Remember him? The guy that DMX had battled back when he was in jail in Suffolk County. The dude that X had finished off when he did his rap Spellbound. The dude that asked X, "How you do that?" when it came to spelling words in his rhymes. K-Solo had committed one of the biggest sins in rap. He'd bitten DMX's style. To make matters worse, Solo was getting fame off of it while DMX was stuck in jail. X was furious, but there was nothing he could do about it other than write rhymes. As a result, he wrote numerous songs dissing K-Solo. He also began calling K-Solo K-Stole It. Then something happened that DMX could never have imagined. One of the corrections officers approached him. He was impressed with X's rapping ability, and he told him one day that maybe they could work together. The officer went on to explain that he and his partner made beats together, and they hoped that DMX could rap over some of them. X referred him to Jack McNasty to try and set something up. A couple of weeks later, Jack came to see DMX in jail and told him that he'd met with the two officers. They wanted to be producers, but they didn't have an MC to produce. This is where DMX came in. Jack had made a deal with the officers, would-be producers, where DMX would go to their studio and lay down some vocals for them. DMX signed off on the deal. A few days later, his bail was paid and he was free. Ultimately, when his case went to trial, when the victim and the witnesses' stories didn't match, DMX was found not guilty. After getting out of jail, X began living with Tashera in Yonkers. One night at 3 a.m. in the morning, two dudes rolled up on their place. X's dog Boomer started barking, and X was ready to grab that piece he kept in his waistband. However, he discovered one of the dudes was Tiny, somebody that X knew from School Street. Tiny had come with his friend Joaquin, who everybody called Wah, with a proposition for X. They wanted to get down on the music scene, and they felt that DMX was the hottest rapper out there. They told X that they were starting a company, and they wanted him to be a part of it. At first, X was dismissive of what they were talking about. He'd heard these types of pitches so many times before, and talk was usually as far as they went, with no additional action to support all that talk. But the next morning, Wah came to see DMX again. He wanted to talk to him. Initially apprehensive, once X found out that Wah liked pit bulls too, he was open to taking a ride with him. Wah was cool with X bringing Boomer along. Wah then explained to X that he and his brother Darren were street dudes, but they wanted to do something different. They'd seen people lose their lives over less money than they could make getting into the music business. This is what was driving what Wah was talking to DMX about. There were no deaths or the threat of going to jail involved in simply making music. So far, Wah was talking a good game, and X was interested. Wah told X that if he could hip him to the music business and teach him what he knew, Wah would make sure that X had whatever he needed to make that happen. Now DMX was really interested. Then Wah hit X off with some money. Then he gave X some weed. Now X was sold. Yeah! This is what DMX had been waiting for. He went from being broke to having new kicks, money in his pocket, and always had weed to smoke. Good kind, too. After DMX got a chance to meet Darren, both he and Wah continued to tell X that as long as he kept rapping like he was doing and showing them what they needed to know, things would be sweet for all of them. As a result, X began to move away from Jack McNasty. They were in two different worlds. Jack was 35 and X was only 20. Jack was more of a homebody, enjoying coming home and watching a movie with his girlfriend. Meanwhile, X liked to be in the streets, and hanging with Wah and Darren was more his style. Plus, those guys were closer to his age. Eventually, DMX talked to Jack about trying to do a single with Wah and Darren. Jack, seeing the writing on the wall, didn't object. At this point, Wah was trying to think of a name for his fledgling company. It was DMX who came up with the name Ruff Ryders, as he felt it spoke to the kind of dudes that they were. As a result, after changing the spelling because they assumed someone else would already be using that name, the Ruff Ryders label was born. We're going to stop part 3 right there. What do you think about DMX being able to get out of jail in exchange for laying down some tracks for a corrections officer? Do you think K-Solo bit DMX's style? Let us know what you think in the comments. Thank you all for checking out our video. We appreciate you spending time with us. If you haven't already seen the first 2 parts of this video, go check those out as well. Then be sure and come back for part 4 of the DMX Saga. Thanks again, and see you soon.